It began not with a bang, but with a question. A question so simple, so profoundly out of place, it broke the universe. In the grand auditorium of the Galactic Lyceum on Cygnus X1, bathed in the soft, multispectral light designed to comfort 1,000 different biologies, the lecture was reaching its crescendo. The topic was apex threats, a comparative analysis of galactic predator hierarchies. The speaker, a Zalosian named Hyproctor Xyler, was a magnificent creature of polished chitin and fluid, articulate limbs. His voice, a series of resonant, harmonic clicks, was translated instantly into the minds of the assembled delegates. For 2 standard hours, he had projected breathtaking and terrifying images. The Cathar Sand Leviathan, a creature of crystalline teeth and seismic senses that hunted by feeling the panicked heartbeats of its prey through 100 meters of rock. The Void Kraken of the Cygnus Rift, a non-corporeal entity that fed on the life force of starship crews, leaving behind nothing but ghost ships adrift in the dark. The Grawl, a hulking, 4-armed brute from a high-gravity world, whose entire life cycle was a perpetual, blood-soaked battle for dominance. Xyler presented a meticulously researched hierarchy, a ladder of lethality. Each creature was broken down into data points: kinetic force of attack, psionic rating, armor density, kill-to-encounter ratio. It was a sanitized academic dissection of raw planetary violence. The audience, a menagerie of beings from across the known galaxy, watched in rapt, respectful silence. They were the civilized, the enlightened. They had transcended such base, brutal realities. For them, predation was a data set, a historical curiosity from their own savage pasts, now safely catalogued. The lecture concluded. The final image on the massive hollow display was Xyler's tiered pyramid of predators, the Void Kraken shimmering at its peak. He clicked his primary mandibles in a gesture of finality. And so, the translation echoed in their minds, we see the established order of natural danger in the galaxy, a hierarchy defined by overwhelming power, specialized evolutionary weaponry, and irrefutable dominance. Are there any inquiries? A silence thick with intellectual satisfaction filled the hall, and then a hand was raised. It was a soft, fleshy, 5-fingered hand. It belonged to the delegate from the Sol system's 3rd planet, a new species barely a few centuries on the galactic scene. A human. His name was Ambassador Thorn. Compared to the other beings in the room, creatures of shimmering energy, of hardened carapace, of towering, elegant forms, he looked unimpressive, soft, fragile. He wore a simple, dark fabric uniform that absorbed the light rather than reflecting it. Xyler inclined his head, a gesture of polite, if slightly patronizing, acknowledgement. The delegate from Terra. Earth, Thorn corrected him, his voice untranslated, a simple acoustic vibration in the air, yet it carried a strange weight. Hyproctor, a fascinating and thorough presentation. Truly, I have one point of clarification, if you would. Proceed, Xyler clicked, a hint of intellectual impatience in his tone. Thorn lowered his hand and stood. He wasn't tall by galactic standards. He wasn't physically imposing. But when he spoke, the entire room seemed to lean in. You've detailed the galaxy's most formidable predators with incredible precision, he said, his gaze fixed on the hollow pyramid of monsters. I was just wondering, for the sake of our own archival data, where would a creature like a tiger rank on your scale? The question fell into the silence like a stone into a perfectly still lake. For a moment, there was only a profound lack of comprehension. The translator in Thorn's ear rendered the confused, whispered clicks and chitters around him. Tiger? What is a tiger? Is that a weapon system? A vehicle? Xyler's mandibles shifted, the alien equivalent of a frown. I am unfamiliar with that designation, Ambassador. Is it a new bioform engineered by your people? No, Thorn said, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. It's just an animal from home. The condescension in the room was palpable. It was a wave of dismissive pity. The primitive, the new child in the galactic schoolyard asking how his planet's pet stacks up against godlike monsters. Xyler gave the equivalent of a sigh. Ambassador, the predators on this list can shatter mountains, phase through reality, and hunt across interstellar distances. I am certain your tiger is a cherished and formidable part of your local ecosystem, but we are discussing matters of a fundamentally different scale. Thorn nodded slowly. I understand. Forgive my ignorance, but you see where I come from. Hierarchy is a little messier. Could I perhaps provide some context? And right there, the trap was sprung. The lecture was over. The real lesson was about to begin. The lesson wasn't about the raw power of claws and teeth. It was about the terrifying difference between the creature that is born strong and the creature that has to become strong to survive in hell. It was a lesson about the brutal truth you must understand in your own life. The world will present you with its hierarchy, its list of titans and kings, and it will dare you to question it. It will condescend to you, dismiss you, and call you primitive. Your job is not to argue. Your job is to ask a simple question that forces them to look at the context. Because context is the weapon that shatters all established hierarchies. 1. The arrogance of the established order. The first brutal truth is this. Every established order, every hierarchy, every system of power is built on a foundation of arrogance. It is the arrogance of assuming that the known variables are the only variables that matter. It is the arrogance of believing that your metrics for success are the only ones. The Galactic Lyceum had its metrics: psionic output, armor rating, raw physical strength. They built a beautiful, logical pyramid and worshipped it. They felt safe in their understanding. They mistook the map for the territory. In that auditorium, the collective sigh of relief was that of a galaxy that believed it had tamed the universe with data. They had forgotten the mud and the blood of their own evolution. They had wrapped themselves in the comfortable blanket of technology and theory, forgetting the primal, chaotic engine of life that still churned in the dark corners of the cosmos, on forgotten worlds like Earth. When Xyler dismissed Thorn's question, he wasn't just dismissing a man or a creature. He was dismissing the unknown. He was committing the ultimate intellectual sin, assuming his knowledge was complete. This is the weakness of every champion, every market leader, every dominant force. They stop looking over their shoulder. They start believing their own press. They analyze the world through their own curated data points and ignore everything that doesn't fit. Think about your own life. You are constantly presented with hierarchies, the corporate ladder with its defined rungs of seniority and titles, the social pecking order with its metrics of wealth, followers, and influence, the academic world with its pyramid of degrees and citations. These are the lectures of the Xylosians. They tell you what powerful means. They tell you what successful means. They show you the void Krakens and the Grauls of your world, the CEOs, the influencers, the tenured professors, and they say, this is the apex. This is the undisputed hierarchy. Do you have any inquiries? And you, like the human in that room, might feel small, unimpressive. You don't have the psionic rating of a Harvard MBA. You don't have the chitinous armor of inherited wealth. By their metrics, you don't even register on the scale, so you stay silent. You accept their pyramid as reality. This is your first and most critical mistake. You are accepting a sanitized, academic model of a messy, brutal reality. The brutal truth is that these hierarchies are fragile illusions, maintained only by the collective agreement of those who are too afraid to question them. The moment someone asks a question that introduces a new, inconvenient variable, the entire pyramid begins to shake. Thorn's question about the tiger was that variable. It was a simple, unassuming key that unlocked a door they didn't even know was there. A door that led out of their sterile laboratory and into a real jungle. Your first actionable step is to stop worshiping their pyramid. Look at the established order in your life, your career, your industry, your social circle, and identify its arrogance. What variables are they ignoring? What kind of strength do they fail to measure? Are they measuring speed when the race is about endurance? Are they measuring volume when the game is about precision? Are they measuring credentials when the victory goes to the one with grit? Start by asking the stupid question, just as Thorne did, not with aggression but with genuine curiosity. I see that a VP title is the next step up. Can someone explain how that role directly generates value, or is it purely administrative? I see that everyone values this particular lifestyle. I'm just curious what the long-term psychological cost of maintaining it is. I understand this is how it's always been done. I'm just trying to understand the original reason why. These are the tiger questions. They seem small. They seem out of place. But they introduce a new context. They force the proctors of your world to confront the potential incompleteness of their map. Don't try to tear down their hierarchy. Just gently, quietly reveal its arrogance. Let them see for themselves that the tidy chart on the wall has very little to do with the chaotic, unpredictable jungle outside. 2. Redefining the weapon. Xyler, with an air of strained patience, gestured for Thorne to continue. Very well, Ambassador. For the sake of interspecies understanding, please describe this tiger. Thorne didn't use the holoprojector. He didn't need it. He used words, and he didn't begin with statistics. He began with a feeling. A tiger, he started, his voice low and steady, is not the strongest creature on my world. A rhinoceros can weigh 3 times as much and is armored like a living tank. An elephant is a literal mountain of muscle that can uproot trees. A saltwater crocodile has the most powerful bite ever measured. By your metrics, Proctor, the tiger fails. It is outclassed in every single category of raw power you have presented today. A murmur went through the crowd. The Xylosian was right. The human's creature was insignificant. But, Thorne continued, a tiger doesn't fight a rhinoceros head-on. It doesn't try to outmuscle an elephant. It doesn't compete with the crocodile in the water. The tiger's primary weapon is not its claws or its teeth, which are formidable. Its primary weapon is its understanding of terror. The room fell silent again. It is a creature of ambush. It can weigh over 300 kilograms, yet it moves through the jungle without making a sound. It is a ghost of color and shadow. Its patience is terrifying. It will stalk a target for hours, for days, learning its habits, its patterns, waiting for the one single moment of inattention. The one fractional second of weakness. It doesn't attack the herd. It attacks the mind of the herd. Its presence in a forest changes the behavior of every other living thing. The deer move differently. The boars feed at different times. The monkeys have a specific alarm call just for it. It is a psychological predator as much as a physical one. It doesn't just kill its prey, it systematically dismantles its world. He paused, letting the image sink in. Its engine is not rage. It is a cold, calculated, patient hunger. And when it decides to attack, it doesn't come from the front. It explodes from a direction you never thought to check, a blur of orange and black. It aims for the spine or the throat, a precise, practiced, anatomical knowledge of how to extinguish life in the most efficient way possible. It is over in seconds. The only evidence is a sudden silence where there was once a heartbeat. Most terrifying of all, Thorne concluded, his gaze sweeping the room, is that it is a generalist. Unlike your specialists born for one environment, the tiger thrives in mangrove swamps, in frozen Siberian forests, in high-altitude grasslands. It adapts. It learns. It overcomes. It is not a biological superweapon. It is a master of the craft of death itself. This is the second brutal truth. You are measuring your strength with the wrong tools. The galaxy, your world, wants you to believe that strength is specialization. The Cathar's seismic sense, the Void Kraken's psionic attack. They want you to define yourself by one hyperspecific skill. The master coder, the brilliant surgeon, the financial wizard. They celebrate the specialist because the specialist is predictable, controllable. A specialist can only operate in their specific environment. Take them out of it, and they are useless. But the tiger, and by extension the human, is a generalist, a persistence predator. Our greatest strength isn't one single overwhelming trait. It's a combination of traits that, on their own, seem average, but when woven together by an intelligent, adaptable mind, become unstoppable. Patience, resilience, adaptability, deception. The capacity for focused, explosive violence followed by long periods of quiet observation. The ability to learn from failure and change strategy. You have been told your whole life to find your one thing, to specialize. That is the lie of the established order because specialists are easy to manage and easy to replace. The true power lies in becoming an anti-specialist, a master generalist. Look at your own life. You might not be the best at any single thing. You're not the strongest person in the gym. You're not the smartest person in the boardroom. You're not the most charismatic person at the party. Good. Stop trying to win their game. Stop trying to max out one stat. Your power is not in any one column of the spreadsheet. Your power is in your ability to combine all of them. Your intelligence fused with your physical discipline. Your creativity armed with your emotional resilience. Your patience, waiting for the perfect moment to deploy your explosive effort. This is your second actionable step. Redefine your personal arsenal. Make a list of your skills, not just the professional ones on your resume. List your patience. List your ability to endure boredom. List your talent for observation. List your capacity to recover from a setback. List your street smarts. List your empathy, which allows you to understand the motivations of others. These are not soft skills. They are the core attributes of the galaxy's most effective predators. They are the weapons the specialists dismiss, right up until the moment those weapons are at their throat. Start training these attributes like you would a muscle. Practice patience by taking on a long, frustrating project. Build resilience by deliberately doing things that are hard and uncomfortable. Sharpen your observation by sitting in a public place and just watching, trying to understand the stories and motivations of the people you see. You are not building a single giant cannon. You are becoming a master of 1,000 different blades and developing the intelligence to know exactly which one to use and when. 3. The revelation of the death world. As Thorne finished his description, a small insectoid xenobiologist in the third row, a being named Pete Lex, began manipulating its console with trembling appendages. It was cross-referencing Thorne's description with the planetary data for Sol 3. An energy of pure, academic horror began to emanate from its station. Xyler noticed. Xenobiologist Pete Lex, you have something to add? Pete Lex activated its own projector. The central hollow display, which had shown the majestic Void Kraken, was replaced by a churning, violent sphere of blue, white, and green. Hi, Proctor. I have accessed the basic environmental data for the human homeworld. Earth. The data began to stream. Tectonic plates grinding together, creating catastrophic earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. An atmosphere characterized by continent-sized hurricanes and supercell thunderstorms that rained frozen water from the sky. 2 ice caps in a constant state of flux, dictating global sea levels. A magnetic field that barely held back a constant, lethal barrage of solar radiation. Then came the biology. Life density is rated Class 9. Pete Lex stammered, a classification so high it was almost theoretical. That's a cascading biowarfare environment. The screen populated with images, microbes that could dissolve organic tissue in hours, fungi whose spores could hijack an insect's brain, plants covered in neurotoxic thorns, snakes whose venom could coagulate blood in the veins, spiders, insects, fish, amphibians. A billion variations of lethality, all locked in a planetary free-for-all. Xyler and the assembled delegates stared, transfixed in horror. Their worlds, for the most part, were garden worlds, stable, predictable, tamed eons ago. They saw life as a cooperative venture. On their planets, the #1 cause of death was old age. On the screen, they saw a world where life was an unceasing, brutal, violent competition. And the predators, Pete Lex whispered. The display cycled through images. A great white shark, a creature of pure, streamlined instinct. A polar bear, the largest land carnivore capable of hunting on land, ice, and in the frozen sea. A pack of wolves demonstrating complex, cooperative hunting strategies. A saltwater crocodile, a perfect, unchanging killing machine for millions of years. Proctor, Pete Lex said, its voice trembling. The tiger is not an anomaly. The data suggests it is merely a Tuesday. On this world, everything is a predator, or it is prey. Often, it is both. The planet itself is trying to kill everything on it. The life that emerges from such a crucible, it would not be like us. The room was utterly silent. The context had arrived. The question was no longer about the tiger. The tiger was just a symptom. The real monster was the environment that had created it. This is the third and most vital, brutal truth. Your struggles are not your weakness. They are the source of all your strength. You have been taught to be ashamed of your difficult past. Your death world, upbringing. The trauma, the poverty, the hardship, the failures. You see them as scars. You see them as disadvantages that hold you back from competing with the people from the garden worlds who had it easy. That is the single most debilitating lie you will ever tell yourself. Every hardship you have ever faced was the planet Earth trying to kill you and you surviving. Every betrayal was a lesson in social camouflage. Every financial struggle was a lesson in resource management under extreme pressure. Every failure was a training simulation, calibrating your response for the next encounter. The anxiety you feel isn't a disorder. It's a hypervigilant threat detection system honed by a lifetime of ambushes. The depression you fought isn't a malfunction. It's an energy conservation mode your body uses to survive a winter of the soul. The people who have had it easy, the ones from stable, predictable homes with every advantage, are the garden worlders. They are soft. They are fragile. They are magnificent in theory, but the first real storm will shatter them. They have never been hunted. They have never had to fight for a meal, or for their sanity, or for their very survival. You are a death worlder. You were forged in a crucible. The tiger is not just an animal from your planet. The tiger is in your DNA. Its patience, its adaptability, its capacity for focused violence. That is your inheritance. Your third actionable step is the great reframing. Take out a piece of paper and write down the 5 hardest things you have ever been through. The things you are most ashamed of, the things you see as your greatest weaknesses. Now, next to each one, write down the lesson it taught you, the strength it forged in you. The bankruptcy that taught you the true value of $1 and how to live on nothing. The brutal breakup that taught you emotional resilience and the importance of self-worth. The dead-end job that taught you patience and how to find meaning even in drudgery. The period of isolation that forced you to learn to rely on yourself. These are not your scars. This is your training history. This is your qualification. When you walk into a room, you are not a damaged individual. You are a survivor of a Class 9 life environment. You carry an invisible resume of battles won that the Garden Worlders can't even comprehend. Stop hiding your Death World past. It is the single most powerful weapon you have. It is the context that makes all your other skills lethal. 4. The unspoken question. Back in the Lyceum, the hollow pyramid of galactic predators looked absurd. Pathetic, even. The Grawl, the four-armed brute from a high-gravity world. Its planet had no microbial life to speak of. It would be dead from a Terran infection in hours. The Cathar Sand Leviathan, it had evolved to hunt one specific type of prey in one specific environment, useless anywhere else. The mighty Void Kraken, it fed on life force, on consciousness. What would it make of a species that had stared into the abyss of its own planet's brutality and not only survived, but mastered it? A species that had institutionalized the study of its own psychological darkness. Hyproctor Xyler stood motionless. His entire lecture, his life's work, had been rendered meaningless in 10 minutes by a quiet man and a question about a cat. He looked at his pyramid, then at the churning, violent image of Earth, then at Ambassador Thorn. The original question, where do tigers rank, had been answered. The answer was, it's irrelevant. It's a question based on a flawed premise. The new question, the real question, hung unspoken in the silent, terrified air of the auditorium. It was a question that formed in the mind of every single delegate as they looked at the soft, unimposing human standing before them. If this is the kind of monster a tiger is, and if the tiger is just one of thousands of threats on its homeworld, and if that homeworld itself is a relentless engine of death, then what in the name of all the stars are you? What kind of a creature evolves in that hellscape, not just to survive it, but to dominate it, to hunt the hunters, to drive the tigers and bears and wolves to the edge of extinction, to tame their cousins and turn them into loyal companions, to pave over the jungles and build cities of metal and light? What kind of a creature then looks up, leaves that planetary death match behind, and builds ships to sail the void? Thorn didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He stood there, the quiet ambassador from the world of monsters, and let them connect the dots. He let them feel the weight of their own dawning realization. The human wasn't a primitive, he was a warning. The human race was not on the pyramid of predators. The human race was the thing that came in the night and broke the pyramid. This is the final brutal truth. True power is never proclaimed. It is revealed. The moment you have to tell someone you are powerful, you have already lost. The moment you have to list your accomplishments to earn respect, you are begging. Your entire life, you've been trying to answer the question, where do I rank? You've been trying to justify your place, to prove your worth. You are playing the wrong game. Your goal is not to answer the question. Your goal is to live in such a way that your presence makes them ask the question. Your quiet competence at work, delivering results while others play politics. Your unshakable calm in a crisis, moving with purpose while others panic. Your profound resilience, getting back up after a failure that would have permanently broken anyone else. These are the things that make people look at you and wonder. These are the things that make them reevaluate their own flimsy hierarchies. The human in that room won not by shouting, but by asking a question that led to a revelation. He didn't say, "We are dangerous." He described a tiger and let them work out the terrifying implications for themselves. This is your final and most important actionable step. Embody the unspoken question. Stop trying to climb their ladder. Start becoming the person who makes them wonder if the ladder is even leaning against the right wall. Focus on your craft. Become so good they can't ignore you. Focus on your character. Become so resilient they can't break you. Focus on your self-awareness. Understand your death world strength so deeply that you radiate a quiet confidence that needs no external validation. Let them have their titles, their awards, their noisy self-promotion. You are playing a longer, deeper game. You are the persistence hunter. Let them be the loud, roaring beast. You will be the ghost in the trees, the patient shadow, the master of the craft of survival and victory. So let's bring it all home. You live in a world that wants to hand you a neatly labeled hierarchy and tell you where you belong. It is an arrogant, fragile illusion. You have been told to measure your strength by their metrics to become a specialist. That is a trap. Your power is in your adaptability, your resilience, your generalist nature. You have been taught to be ashamed of your scars, of your difficult past. That is the greatest lie. Your death world is the source of your invincible strength. And you have been trying to shout your worth to a world that isn't listening. Stop. From this day forward, you are the quiet ambassador from the planet of monsters. You carry the legacy of every struggle, every fight, every victory in your blood. You don't need to roar to prove you have teeth. Walk into the rooms of your life. Observe their neat little pyramids. And then with a calm, quiet confidence, ask the question that makes them check the foundations of everything they thought was true. Don't tell them where you rank. Live in such a way that they spend the rest of their lives nervously trying to figure it out for themselves. Go and show them what a real predator looks like.